Hey, hey,
Hey,
hey.
how's it going?
Are you looking for love, waiting for love, and tired of waiting for love, and you think God has forgotten about you?
Mm,
This is the channel you need to be on.
yes,
All
yes.
right.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Terrence and Jill. We are God-Ordained Union. Our vision is to help support and increase kingdom marriage.
Yep.
So if you're looking for your soulmate,
Mm-hmm.
this is the platform you need to be on.
Yes. If you are tired of waiting, that's our
Yes,
story. We waited until we were
over 50.
over 50. I've never been married, never had any children, but God and his graciousness, as soon as I quote unquote gave up and gave it to him,
Mm.
bam,
As
I
soon as I
fell in love.
delivered it to him.
Y'all, as soon as I gave it to God, my social media crush came pursuing me. And if you want to hear the whole story of how it went down, we'll
Ooh,
put it up here at the end of this
yes,
video. So
yes.
make sure you tune in to us. We live every Tuesday,
Mhm.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live. And everything we do, we talk about our story and how we waited in our single season and how we kicked, well, how I kicked, screamed, and cried because I wanted marriage, but I did not want just anybody.
Yes, that's the
That's
difference
the
in this platform.
difference.
We
Yes.
didn't settle for just
We
anybody.
didn't. We didn't. We knew
Yes,
what we wanted and what we needed, and more importantly, what God wanted for us. And
yes,
so we were both willing to stay
mm,
single if we did
yes.
not get each other.
Each other.
I scared
And
you.
and for those of you that have never been on this platform, look, we got hundreds of
Hundreds
videos
of
now. So
videos.
please go back and look
Mm-hmm.
at the first 5 videos,
Yeah.
because in those 5, you're going to see not only how we got started, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be able to see how
How
we
we
started to grow and how it became what it is today. So please check us out.
Yeah, we actually started when we got engaged.
Yes.
And we went through the whole wedding planning, everything, all them videos up
Mhm.
there, even our wedding videos up there. But
Yes.
okay, but today
Today.
we got us something to talk about.
Yes.
And it's how far would you go for true love?
How far? Mm. And look, this is so serious because your true love, that's that one that's like supposed to be the best ever that you can ever imagine, that you could ever think of. If somebody gave you a wish and said, I can grant all your wishes, what do you want, fellas? What do you want them to be? Bam. That's what we're talking about. That soulmate, that one that you want to spend the rest of your life with.
And ladies,
Yes,
how
and
how
ladies.
how what are you looking for?
Mm,
How I think you should be looking at how far he would go
mm,
to get you.
absolutely.
That's what you should be looking
Ooh,
for. So we're gonna break this down. It's a
yes,
lot to unpack. We want to give you a real life story.
yes,
But first we want to break down the story of
yes.
Jacob in
Mhm.
the Bible. Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, but Jacob in the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham was his grandfather,
Mm,
Isaac was his father, and Jacob, which had the 12 tribes of Israel. And so, which name Israel? Anyway, who those of you who are not familiar with the story of Jacob, Jacob had 12 children,
mm,
12 tribes with four different women, two concubines and two wives. And so let's talk about the two wives
yes.
because this is where it gets close and you got to know that you hear from God.
Mhm.
So he saw Rachel, who he wanted to marry.
Yes.
That's who he was in love with.
And she wanted to marry him.
Yes, she was in love with him. Okay, this is kind of the Ebonics version of it. But he saw Rachel. Let's call her Rachel. No, no. So he saw Rachel. He really wanted to marry her. But the customary law was that she was not the oldest daughter. And so, so her father, who had another daughter named Leah, her sister, Rachel's sister, was older than her. The father um, told Jacob that he can marry Rachel. No, that he needed to marry Leah first. He could marry Rachel for 7 years so that he could stay in customs with the law. He could marry Rachel, but he had to marry Leah first. And if he married her for 7 years, then he can have Leah. I mean, he can have Rachel. So he married Leah for those 7 years, and he had sons. Now, Leah gave him some prized possessions. He had sons with her, but he really wanted Rachel. Ladies, you need to be clear with this.
Mhm.
Don't be a Leah. He really wanted Rachel. So after the 7 years were up, the father tricked him. Laban, the father, tricked him.
He basically worked for the father for 7 years, and rather than the father pay him for his services, he agreed to let him marry his daughter. And when the 7 years was over, and he thought he was getting Rachel, her father tricked him and married him the older daughter, his oldest daughter that he did not want to marry.
Right.
Didn't want to have anything to do with her, but he got tricked. And so then they decided, now he worked for this man for 7 years. So you know right there, he really wanted Rachel. Look, working for somebody for 7 years for free, knowing that the only way they're going to pay me is that I get through these 7 years, then I get to marry my queen. And he tricked him after the 7 years. So now he's upset because he got tricked. However, he loved Rachel so much
that he did another 7 years.
He made a new agreement with her father and said, I tell you what, I will work another 7. Her father said, well, you work another 7 years for me and you can have Rachel.
So he stayed with Leah, her sister, for 14 years.
He was with somebody for 14 years. And he worked for their father for 14 years to prove that that's who he wanted Rachel that bad.
And he had sons with Leah.
Fellas.
But he didn't have his love children until he got with Rachel, when he had Joseph and Benjamin.
Ooh, that's another video.
That's love a whole nother video. But he had sons with Leah. He had, which are prized, sons are prized possessions, because they produce, they reproduce. And so the thing is, there's two messages here.
Yes.
For the ladies, are you going to be the Rachel or the Leah? And you got to know the difference. And if you are, one of the ways to know the difference is look at the man. What does he, where is his real focus?
The word says, let his works.
Where's his real focus? Is this, you will know if it's not on you. Yes. You will know. And so, yeah.
Fellas, I'm trying to tell you, do y'all understand how powerful it is that he loved her so much? And in today's world, fellas, who do you want to be with that you're willing to sacrifice that much? 14 years. Just to say the first agreement, 7 years. Would you be willing to do it for your true love? For your soulmate, for the woman you're going to spend the rest of your life with.
Right.
Wow.
And so, ladies, you can't go on, well, we've been together all this time. And, so time is not a determining factor. Like, if, you be with this person and produce kids for him. But it does not mean that he's who you want. You are who he wants. It does not, you got to really be in tune to the person and see who his focus is on. Who his focus. And it's so funny because they said Rachel was beautiful, but Leah had lazy eyes. She had lazy eyes, which I take it, it could mean so many things. I interpret as that Leah could not see. Leah could not see who this man really wanted.
Basically, it's like she didn't have.
She was blind. She was blind.
Yeah.
And so you got to be very, very in tune to this guy you are seeing or dating, that you don't, miss the forest for the trees. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, and know your self-worth. Don't settle. You're talking about spending the rest of your life with someone. Don't settle.
So that goes, something happened this week. And It's controversial to some, but I just happen to actually love it because I know of this person from my hometown, and that's Pastor Jamal Bryant. You know, he's very controversial for so many reasons. He's outspoken. He's a pastor of a mega church. He has a reputation for allegedly being a womanizer, and allegedly has children all over the place. So did Jacob, having children all over the place. And those of you who don't know the story, from his ex-wife Giselle Bryant is on the Real Housewives of Potomac. So that's who he was married to first. Even outside he got other children. She Giselle had three beautiful daughters with him. Leah had three beautiful daughters with him. Um, and but they divorced because evidently that's not who he really wanted. I mean, it doesn't matter how beautiful some people think she is. When you got and I do believe that Jamal has a heart for God, regardless of his alleged antics. I mean, I just know from social media that he's very outspoken. I distinctly remember, he tried to in Maryland, and this was public because it was on the news. He tried to step to some to call himself trying to change his community. He tried to step to some thugs in the hood, and they ran him off. And I mean, where he literally had to turn around on the block and in fear and walk away, because they was like, dude, get the heck out of here. Like, dude, we don't even like you. And so, but I really believe he has a heart for God, regardless of all of his outspokenness, his antics. I believe he has a heart for God, and he never remarried after Giselle. But just this week, it was announced. So it was announced a couple of months ago that he was dating this young lady at his church. And apparently he for years he had his eye on her, but he was in his Laban season where he was working, and he was, but this woman knew that he loved her and liked her and admired her, and he knew he liked her, but vice versa. And so they waited, and just this week, uh, they got married. And there was so many other women that wanted him. He dated other women publicly. I remember he dated Tweet the singer. There were other women he dated publicly. He would not marry them. He just would not marry them. But this woman, he married, and I like to believe that she's his Rachel. The first wife was his Leah, and all the other women that he had been with were the concubines. But he married his Rachel, and she made Dr. Carey, that's her name, who he married. She had made a video, and we talked about this before, how she just was not settling for, not only for his for nobody else, but she wasn't settling for his antics either. And she lived her life. She walked away, didn't accept his flowers, none of that. She was very adamant of what she deserved, what she wanted, and if he wasn't going to oblige, she said deuces. She said deuces. And the pursuit changed, and he ran after her, and he proved his love to her, and he married her this week. Yeah. So shout out, because anytime you make a commitment to God and you marry someone, that's a huge step. Now there's going to be challenges in marriage, so now you got to be careful of the enemy, because if he couldn't get you before for preventing it, he's going to try while he don't stop. But yeah, that is you got to really know your worth and not settle. And how far would you go for true love? How far? For me, it was waiting till 50
And
plus.
for those of you that know our story, know that I'm divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And I commend him for even being willing to take that opportunity a second time. I had someone ask me one time before she and I met, said, look, what's the deal with especially black men? Why black men don't get married a second time and this and that, y'all? It's like, look, most of us probably feel, and this is what I told that individual at the time, this guy, I said, I believe most of us feel we gave it our best, our best effort then, and we failed. For whatever reason, it didn't work. So do we really want to put ourselves and another person through that again? But then, I started getting into the word, and over time I said, you know what? If God was to give me someone that he had for me, that I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, she's the one that God has for me, I wouldn't be afraid to take that step again. But I wasn't going to do it for just anybody. I wasn't going to get married just for the sake of being married. I wasn't going to, surrender into a situation and say, well, I need to, I done got this woman pregnant. Now I need to get married. No, I didn't do anything to even to give that opportunity a chance to play into that. So, I commend him for being open, being willing, being vulnerable enough to even go out, especially somebody that's in the public's eye, that's always been in the news and been on social media. That adds a lot of drama to a relationship in itself. So for him to be willing to do that, that's plausible.
Yes, yes. And ladies, especially the ones that's older,
yes,
and you thinking, well, I don't want somebody who was married before. It's something about that second wife, or it's something about that wife after the first one, because it could be the second or the third, but it's something about the wife after the first one, where or even the second marriage or the marriage after the first one, that God has his hands in. Like that is the one that so don't be feeling like, well, I could never compete with his first love or his first marriage. If it was God ordained,
you don't know how that
it would have
process
lasted.
took place, and you don't know why it didn't work.
Exactly. So so it's like, how far would you want to go? How far would you go for true love? How far would you go? For so many, time is a factor. For a lot of people, it's like, it's time is a factor, and it's not a factor when it's true love. Like it may take to your 60s, or it may even take to your 70, whatever. How far would you like? Would you really want to marry someone in your 40s, and it probably is not the God ordained one? Or if God said, I'll let you go ahead and get married now in your 40s, he's who you want. He's not who I want for you. But I have someone God ordained, but he's not coming right now. And you really don't know when it is. And in your mind, it ain't ever coming. And you don't know if it's your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. You don't know. But are you willing
to trust God
enough to wait? And that is yeah.
Another thing I like about this, in this particular story that we're sharing with you, is the fact of their age. I don't know their specific age, but I say that to say
Jamal and Dr. Carr, they're in their 50s.
Yeah, so I say that to say the one reason why we came up with this platform is because when we announced our engagement on social media, we learned from the feedback of that announcement, and where Jill shared our story, we learned that there are a lot of people that were like us, over 50, but in their situation, they haven't found their true love yet, and they thought that God had forgotten about them. So we came up with this platform to basically to say, you're not by yourself, and it's never too late. God has not forgotten about you. But I say that to say this: I really appreciate the fact that they are just another example that you can't put time on love. If you truly say you want true love, then you just can never give up until it comes. You just got to stay the course. You got to have faith. You got to believe. You got to, stay the course. Don't compromise.
Don't manipulate.
Don't settle. None of that. You got to stay the course and let God do what God does.
That's building the story. And the other thing I like about they had this wedding, that's now the pictures are floating around social media, and it was not traditional. She had on a pink dress, or pink. It wasn't even a dress. She had pants on, but it was a pink. It was
Mm.
pink. It was not. They didn't. She had showed pictures a couple of weeks ago of her bridal shower, but it was not a big celebrity event. It was how they, it would look small and intimate. And I'm telling you, the older you get,
Yes.
the more things become more meaningful and more intimate and more out the public eye. And I just everything about it I love. I love the fact that like I just love that God can use anybody, God can do anything, and love is for all of us.
Yes.
It's for if we want it, it's there for us.
Yes.
And so shout out to the Bryants, Dr. Carrie Bryant now, and I
Yes.
think that's her name, Kari or Carrie, and Jamal Bryant. We're praying for you,
Yes.
and we know that God can do anything. And thank you for being an example that true love does exist,
Yeah,
and it
never
is
give
worth
up.
waiting for.
Never give up.
Yeah, yeah. So, with that being said, baby, that's all we got.
Yeah, that's all we got for you. We hope
Yes.
this brightens your day, your weekend, and we hope that
Mm-hmm.
this gets you to thinking, hey, it's not too late for you.
Yeah, it's not too late.
All
All
right.
right.
Deuces.
Deuces. Ah.